There was a day you still remember because of how wrong it felt in the moment. You were supposed to be there on time. You had everything planned. You woke up with your schedule in your head, confident that if you moved just right, everything would line up. And then, for reasons that made no sense, it didn't. The alarm didn't go off, or you hit snooze just once, and somehow that once turned into 15 extra minutes. Your keys disappeared. Your phone froze. You spilled something on your clothes and had to change. Traffic lights refused to cooperate, turning red at the exact moment you needed them to be green. You looked at the time, watched the minutes slip away, and felt that uncomfortable heat in your chest. I'm late, I can't be late. Why is everything going wrong today? From your side, it felt like a mess, a spiritual attack, bad time management. Another proof, you told yourself, that you can't get your life together. You apologized in advance in your mind. You mentally rehearsed your excuses. You imagined the looks on people's faces when you finally walked in behind schedule. You weren't thinking about heaven. You were thinking about your reputation. You didn't see the timing of God. You only saw the ticking of the clock somewhere along that route. On the road you meant to take, in the place you expected to be. Something else was happening. A route was being blocked. An accident was unfolding. A chain of events was lining up that you were never meant to stand in the middle of. While you were tearing your house apart looking for your wallet, angels were already in motion. While you were pacing, checking your phone, frustrated with every passing minute, heaven was quietly rearranging your steps. You called it delay. Heaven called it redirection. You finally left the house, heart racing, practicing what you would say when you arrived late. Every slow driver on the road felt like a personal attack. Every extra pause felt like one more reason to be ashamed. You didn't know that if everything had gone your way, you would have intersected a moment you were never meant to meet. A collision, a fight, a crisis, an encounter that would have left a mark on your body, your mind, or your spirit. From your side, the morning looked like chaos. From heaven's side, it was choreography, carefully timed interruptions, strategic inconveniences, 1,000 tiny problems that all added up to one thing. You did not arrive on time, not because you were cursed, not because you were irresponsible, but because heaven had decided that on time would have been too early for you to be safe. You didn't know that yet. You only knew the sting of walking in late. You saw the faces, you read the room, you felt out of place. Maybe they told you, you just missed it. If you had arrived 5 minutes earlier, you would have seen what happened. And you felt that little twist in your stomach. Part relief, part confusion. You thought, strange, why did everything conspire to slow me down today? You moved on. You didn't think about it again for long. But heaven did. Heaven marked that day as one more entry in a long list of times when God protected you by refusing to let you be where you thought you should be. You called it a bad morning. He called it mercy. And even now, as you think back on all the times you arrived late for reasons you couldn't explain, He is inviting you to see those moments differently. What if your delay was not a failure, but a shield? What if the day you accused yourself the most for not being on time was actually the day heaven celebrated because you were exactly where you needed to be? Not there, not yet, not in the middle of what you were never meant to carry. There were seasons in your life when delay did more than disrupt your plans. It touched your identity. You weren't just late to an appointment. You felt late in life. Late to find love, late to start the right career, late to heal, late to figure it out. While everyone your age seemed to be 2, 5, 10 steps ahead, you watched other people hit milestones right on schedule. They graduated when they were supposed to. They married when they were supposed to. They bought homes, had children, moved into jobs with titles and stability. You congratulated them. You smiled. You said, "I'm happy for you." But deep inside you whispered, "Why am I so behind? Why does everything take me longer? What's wrong with me?" From your side, delay looked like proof that you were failing at life. From heaven's side, delay was proof that your life was being written by a different timeline. You tried to speed yourself up. You forced decisions. You jumped into relationships just to not feel alone anymore. You said yes to jobs that looked like shortcuts. You tried to compress years of growth into a few drastic choices, and when those choices backfired, you called yourself names. I'm slow, I'm stupid, I'm always late, I ruin everything. You saw delay as a character flaw. Heaven saw delay as protection from a version of your future that would have unfolded too fast for your soul to handle. Think about it. If certain prayers had been answered exactly when you wanted, would you have been ready on the inside, ready to handle the pressure behind that promotion, ready to steward the heart on the other end of that relationship, ready to stay humble when people started watching you, listening to you, following you? You say, yes, I would have adapted. I would have figured it out. But even now, with everything you have learned, you still feel the weight of responsibilities you carry. Imagine if those weights had landed on a younger, more fragile version of you who was still believing every lie spoken over your worth. Imagine if you had gotten the relationship you begged for while you still thought your value depended on never being alone. Imagine if you had been given a huge platform while you still believed you had to earn your right to exist by pleasing everyone. Imagine if you had stepped into leadership when your identity was still so tangled with what people thought of you that one criticism would have shattered you. Heaven saw all of that. So instead of flinging open doors the moment you knocked, God slowed you down. Not to punish you, not to mock you, not to leave you trailing behind others in some cruel race. He slowed you to save you. He let certain applications sit unanswered. He allowed some relationships to never quite click. He let doors remain unclear until your motives shifted from proving yourself to pleasing him. But from your side, all you could see was empty time, unanswered messages, unmoving plans, unchanging circumstances. You started to measure yourself against clocks and calendars instead of against his presence. By this age, I should already be there. By this year, I should already have that. You didn't notice how those sentences were choking your joy. You woke up every morning already feeling behind before the day even started. And in that mindset, delay became your enemy. Every closed door felt like another accusation. Every not yet felt like another reminder that you were running late to a future everyone else seemed to reach on time. But from heaven's perspective, you were not late. You were in process. There is a difference. Late means you failed the schedule. Process means the schedule you're comparing yourself to was never yours. While you were accusing yourself of moving too slowly, God was doing deep work that cannot be rushed. Healing patterns you didn't even realize were running your decisions, confronting lies you had carried since childhood, teaching you how to hear his voice over the noise of your fear. If he had skipped that work and thrown you straight into the life you thought you wanted, the weight of it would have crushed you. You would have called it blessing for a while. You would have posted the pictures and said all the right words, but late at night, when the applause faded, you would have felt the emptiness of a life that moved faster than your soul could keep up. So he delayed you. He let you stay in smaller rooms longer than you planned. He kept you hidden while others were being seen. He allowed you to move slowly through seasons that nobody celebrates on social media. Therapy sessions, quiet disciplines, obscure obediences, lonely prayers where nobody saw you but him. From the outside, it looked like stagnation. From heaven's side, it was foundation. You weren't failing, you were being formed. But formation takes time, especially when God is carefully undoing years of damage and rebuilding you from the inside out. You tell yourself, if I had arrived earlier, I would be farther by now. Heaven says, if you had arrived earlier, you might not have survived what you found there. The delay you call incompetence is, in so many ways, proof that God refused to rush you into a life your heart was not ready to carry. And even now, in the places where you feel you are still late, in love, in calling, in healing, in stability, he is not pacing the floor of heaven shaking his head. He He is still working in you with the same careful timing, the same deliberate patience, the same love that chose to slow you down when everything in you was screaming to speed up. There are moments in your past that seemed, at the time, like simple frustrations. You missed the bus by seconds. You arrived just as the doors were closing. You reached the meeting after the key conversation had already ended. You showed up for the party only to hear, "You should have been here earlier. So much happened before you came." You laughed it off. You said, "Story of my life, I'm always late." You made a joke so they wouldn't see how much it bothered you. But that night, lying in bed replaying the day, you felt it, that subtle ache, that whisper of accusation. If you were more organized, if you were more focused, if you were more like them, you wouldn't always be missing everything. From your side, you saw yourself as the one who never quite arrives when the real moment happens. But what if some of those moments were not meant for you? Not because you were unworthy, but because you were being spared. You didn't see what was said in that conversation before you came. Words spoken in anger that would have pierced you. Secrets shared in a mood that would have twisted your view of someone. Decisions made in haste that would have pulled you into an agreement you weren't ready to carry. You weren't there when the argument exploded, when the gossip started, when the invitation to compromise felt harmless in the moment. You arrived after the heat. You walked into the room once the air had cooled, once the worst of it had already passed. You looked around and thought, "I missed everything." Heaven looked and thought, "No, you were covered." You didn't know how one conversation can shift the course of a heart, how one reckless moment can tie you to people, decisions, and environments that take years to untangle from. You may never know what you were not present to witness. How many times your absence was your protection? There were times you were late to a meeting and walked in on the aftermath of something that would have scarred you. You heard about it secondhand, felt out of the loop, and wondered why you couldn't just arrive on time for once. But if you had arrived earlier, you might have said yes to an offer that only sounded wise under the pressure of the moment. You might have nodded along with opinions that did not reflect your values, simply because you were afraid of sticking out. Instead, you walked in when the room was already shifting, when the intensity had lowered, when the atmosphere was safer for your spirit. You didn't see the timing behind your own footsteps. You just saw the clock. There were other times you missed opportunities that everyone else called huge. The event you wanted to attend but couldn't get off work for. The trip your friends took without you because your finances weren't ready. The night out you had to cancel because your body collapsed into exhaustion. You scrolled through photos later, felt the familiar sting, and thought, "Of course, I'm the one who wasn't there." Again. But you don't know what was planted in those spaces. You don't know what spiritual atmosphere you would have walked into, what temptations would have hit you on a day when you were already drained. What accidents were narrowly avoided by the simple fact that your body stayed home while your heart begged to go. You call it bad timing. Heaven calls it precise timing. You think of the nights you stayed late at home, wishing you were anywhere else. The plans that fell through, the rides that never arrived, the invitations that came too late. You didn't see how God was quietly honoring prayers you had forgotten. Keep me from places where I will lose myself. Protect me from decisions I will regret. Don't let me be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Those words may have been whispered once in a moment of honesty, but heaven did not forget them. So when you complained, "Why do I always miss it?" Heaven answered, "You don't know what it really was." Sometimes the thing you missed wasn't your breakthrough, it was your breakdown. Sometimes the door you didn't walk through wasn't your destiny, it was your distraction. Sometimes the moment you lost was a moment that would have slowly stolen pieces of you if you had been there. You see the photos of what happened without you. You see the smiles. You hear the amusing version of the night. You don't see the argument in the car ride home, the guilt someone else carried the next day, the spiritual heaviness that settled in after everyone went to bed. You only see what was captured in light. Heaven saw what lurked in the dark. So yes, there are moments in your life you did not arrive on time for. You missed the call, you missed the bus, You missed the meeting, you missed the chance, but you also missed the accident, the compromise, the spiritual collision that would have struck you when you were least ready. You will not have a full report on this side of eternity of all that you were spared, but you have enough pieces to start suspecting that your delays have not been random. So instead of only saying, "I always miss everything," you can begin to say, "I may have missed something, but maybe that something was never meant to carry my name." And when you look back at those strange days, those almost moments, those "I just missed it" stories, you can let your heart whisper a different question. What if I didn't arrive late? What if I arrived right on time for the life God wanted to protect in me? There were seasons when delay didn't just touch your schedule or your sense of competence. It touched your faith. You prayed, not once, not casually. You prayed with tears, with fasting, with all the sincerity you knew how to bring. God, move. God, answer. God, if this is your will, please do it soon. I can't keep waiting like this. You checked for signs, you looked for confirmations, you listened to sermons that seemed to speak directly to your situation. You thought, this is it, something is about to shift, and then nothing. No email, no open door, no sudden breakthrough, just the same circumstances staring back at you day after day after day. From your side, it felt like heaven had gone silent. You thought, if you were going to do something, wouldn't you have done it by now? If this delay is for a purpose, why do I feel like I'm just stuck in place while life moves on without me? You began to question not just your future, but the heart of God toward you. Maybe you never said it out loud, but deep inside, a quiet suspicion grew. If he really cared, would he let it drag on this long? If I really mattered to him, would he keep me in this waiting room with no explanation? What you didn't see was that heaven was anything but silent. God was not ignoring you. He was answering prayers you weren't even praying in that moment, because you had prayed other prayers before. Don't let me go back to who I used to be. Don't let me ruin what you're doing in me. Change me, even if it hurts. Do what you need to do so I don't live a shallow life. Those prayers do not evaporate. So while you were asking for speed, he was honoring the deeper requests for transformation. And transformation takes time. If he had rushed you into the next season while your wounds were still wide open, the new thing would have become a bandage instead of a blessing. You would have used that relationship to cover your loneliness instead of learning how to stand whole. You would have used that job to cover your insecurity instead of discovering your true worth in him. You would have used that platform to cover your emptiness instead of letting him fill the places no audience can touch. So he delayed, not because he had nothing to say, but because what he was saying could only be heard in the quiet. In the nights when you sat on the edge of your bed and whispered, "Are you still here?" In the mornings when you dragged yourself through another ordinary day with no visible progress. In the small moments when he nudged your heart to open your Bible, to forgive again, to apologize, to confront patterns you'd rather ignore. You didn't recognize those moments as answers because they didn't look like the answer you wanted. You wanted a door. He gave you depth. You wanted a shortcut. He gave you character. You wanted finally. He gave you faithfully. There were days when you almost walked away. You thought, what's the point of believing if nothing changes? What's the point of praying if everything stays stuck? But even in those questions, he was closer than your own breath, because delay isn't just about what you're waiting for. It's about who you are becoming while you wait. You learned how to show up on days when enthusiasm was gone. You learned how to worship when you didn't feel goosebumps. You learned how to treat people with kindness while your own heart ached with unanswered longings. Heaven sees that. Heaven counts that. Those are not wasted days. Those are not empty chapters in your story. They are places where your roots went deeper, even while the surface looked unchanged. You thought nothing was happening because you couldn't see fruit. God knew everything was happening because he could see the roots. And roots are what keep you standing when storms come later. Imagine if he had given you exactly what you wanted, exactly when you wanted it. Would you have known how to lean on him, or would you have leaned on the gift? Would you have stayed if the blessing had turned difficult? Or would you have run the moment it no longer felt like a reward? Delay exposed your motives. Delay revealed where your hope really lived. Delay stripped away the illusion that God was just a vending machine for your plans. It forced you to ask harder questions. If this never happens, is he still good? If I have to walk longer than I thought, is it still worth walking with him? Those questions hurt. They burned in your chest, but on the other side of them is a kind of faith that circumstances cannot control. The kind of faith that doesn't shatter every time the timeline stretches. The kind of faith that says, I don't understand this delay, but I refuse to interpret it as abandonment anymore. If you are slowing me down, it must be because you see something I don't. And if I can't see it yet, I will let this season drive me deeper into you instead of away from you. Delay did not mean God was absent. It meant he was working in dimensions you weren't watching, in your motives, in your healing, in the unseen pieces of your future that had to be prepared so that when the door finally opens, you walk through it as someone who is anchored in him, not defined by it. You still don't have all the answers. You still feel the pull of impatience. You still wish some things had moved faster. But somewhere inside, beneath the frustration, a quiet conviction is forming. If he kept me waiting, it wasn't because my life was forgotten. It was because my life is valuable enough to be timed by his wisdom and not my impatience. There was a season when you felt like the last one left in the waiting room. Everyone around you seemed to be called in ahead of you. They got the relationship. They got the promotion. They got the house, the baby, the ministry, the recognition. They got the life milestones that you secretly measured your worth against. You celebrated them. You posted congratulations. You smiled in the photos. But inside, a quiet ache grew. You thought, why do their prayers move faster? Why does everything seem to unfold on schedule for them, and my life is always delayed? Did I miss my turn? Did I stand up for a moment and lose my place in line? From your side, it looked like everyone else was right on time and you were chronically late. From heaven's side, it was about alignment, not timing, because you are not just called to any relationship, any job, any opportunity. You are called to the ones that match the work God is doing in you. There were people you thought you were late to meet. If you had moved faster, if your life had been more together, maybe you would have been with them in their prime moments, their early successes, their first explosions of opportunity. You imagined being at their side, sharing the stage, sharing the story, sharing the life. But God saw something else. He saw that if you had arrived early, you would have attached yourself to people who were still living from their wounds, not their healing. Beautiful on the outside, charismatic, magnetic, but still carrying unhealed patterns that would have collided with your own. He knew that if your path had intersected theirs at the wrong time, you would have built something together on broken foundations. You would have called it partnership. Heaven would have called it codependency. You would have called it love. Heaven would have called it survival. So he delayed you. You saw it as being behind in relationships, in networking, in influence. He saw it as pulling you out of synchronization with people whose timelines were not safe for your soul. You were not late. You were kept from friendships that would have felt thrilling at first, but slowly trained you to accept what hurt you in the name of loyalty. Kept from romantic relationships that would have looked like destiny in year 1 and like a quiet erosion of who you are in year 5. Kept from circles where success was worshipped and souls were neglected. Sometimes you blame yourself for not getting there sooner. You replay missed chances, missed messages, missed connections. What if you had said yes that night? What if you had answered that call? What if you had pushed harder to be included in that group? You imagined the best version of those scenarios. Heaven saw the worst version, the version where you said yes to someone who had not yet said yes to their own healing, the version where your kindness was mistaken for permission to take advantage of you, the version where your hunger to belong overrode your discernment about where you were belonging. So God allowed your paths to be out of sync. You arrived too late to become entangled in certain stories. You didn't meet them until they had moved away. You didn't get close until the season had shifted. You didn't cross paths when the door was wide open. You met them when it was already closing. From your side, you felt like you had missed a chance. From heaven's side, you had been spared a chapter. You don't see how many almost relationships would have rewritten your life in ways you would now grieve. You don't see how many perfect opportunities would have required you to sacrifice your mental health, your spiritual sensitivity, your integrity. But you have seen glimpses, you have watched from a safe distance the aftermath of some of those connections, the marriage that looked magical online and later imploded under the weight of secrets, the friendship that burned hot and fast and then exploded in betrayal, the ministry or business partnership that crashed under pride and control. You looked at those stories and felt a chill in your spirit. I was almost there. I almost wanted that. I almost begged God to put me in the middle of that. And somewhere inside, even if you didn't say it out loud, you whispered, "Thank you for not letting my almost turn into reality." Your delay was not just about schedules. It was about chemistry, about who you would align with, about which lives your life would be woven into, about which hearts would have the power to shape yours. God is not just authoring your story. He is also carefully editing the crossover episodes. There are people you were never meant to walk with deeply, no matter how holy it looked, no matter how impressive it seemed. The timing would have been wrong, the power dynamics would have been wrong, the spiritual climate would have been wrong. So instead of inserting you into every open space, he let you fall behind. You watched others run ahead. You watched them form bonds and build platforms and gather stories. You wondered why it never quite worked the same way for you. You thought it was a curse. He knew it was a kindness, because later, when you did meet certain people, when you did step into certain spaces, you were not the same person you would have been before. You were less desperate, less willing to ignore red flags, less inclined to trade your peace for the illusion of being chosen. Delay had done its work. So now, instead of asking only, "Why did I arrive so late?" you can begin to ask, "What was I protected from by not arriving earlier?" You may never know every answer, but you can feel the fruit. You are still soft where you could have grown hard. You are still able to trust where you could have become cynical. You are still willing to love where you could have shut down completely. That softness is not weakness. It is evidence that God has been guarding your heart, not just from obvious danger, but from the subtler damage of being joined too early to the wrong people in the wrong time. So when you see others who seem to have gotten everything on time, you can bless them without using them as a mirror to condemn yourself. You don't know what their delay looked like in other areas. You don't know what they paid to stand where they stand. You only know this: your delay has not been emptiness. It has been a shield wrapped around your story, around your relationships, around your future, keeping you from arriving on time to places that would have quietly rewritten you into someone you were never meant to be. There are stories about your life that you will never fully know. Stories that don't make it into diaries or testimonies because from your side they look like nothing more than an annoying delay or an ordinary change of plans. You were late leaving the house. You forgot something and went back inside. You took a different route at the last minute. You missed the elevator. You stayed for just 5 more minutes talking to someone. Tiny decisions, tiny interruptions, moments that, to you, felt random. But time is not random in heaven. There were mornings when you turned one corner instead of another for no clear reason, and never knew what that choice changed. You heard about an accident later, a fight that broke out, something that happened right around the time you would have been there if your day had gone according to plan. You shrugged. This world is crazy. You didn't connect your delay to your survival, but heaven did. Angels are not just present in dramatic encounters and visions, they are present in timing. In the 10-minute conversation that kept you in the lobby just long enough, in the lost keys that made you search the house for 5 extra minutes, in the inner nudge that said, "Don't rush. Wait a moment," without explaining why. From your side, you were just frustrated. From heaven's side, you were being pulled out of alignment with something that was never supposed to touch you. You think about the times you almost got on that road. You almost took that ride. You almost got in that car. Something in you hesitated, or something external blocked it. A call came, a message arrived, a small emergency pulled you away. You didn't get the whole story. Maybe you only heard rumors later. There was a crash. Something happened on that street. Did you hear about? Your heart dropped for a moment. You did the math in your head. If I had left when I meant to, I would have been there. You felt a chill. You felt a wave of gratitude. You moved on with your day. Heaven did not move on so quickly. Heaven recorded those moments as interventions because you had asked, even if only once, "Lord, protect me. Don't let me be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Keep me from what I cannot see." That prayer did not expire after you said amen. It has followed you into streets, onto highways, through doors, around people you never even realized carried their own storms. There were nights when you walked home feeling strangely unsettled, changed your route, and told yourself you were overreacting. Heaven didn't call it overreaction. Heaven called it guidance. There were invitations to be somewhere at a certain time, a party, a meeting, a secret plan. You wanted to go. It felt harmless, even exciting. But every time the day came, something blocked it. You got sick. Transportation fell through. A conflict appeared in your schedule. An inner heaviness refused to lift. You blamed your life, your bad luck, your body, your circumstances. But what if some of those delays were God's hand on your shoulder, gently holding you back from a disaster you were not aware of? You see the news, you see headlines, you hear "right place, wrong time," and your heart aches for others. You don't think about all the times heaven made sure you were in the right place at the right time by ensuring you were not where danger waited for you. Because the enemy does not just aim at your present, he aims at your future. If he could have intersected your life with certain moments, certain people, certain traumas, certain losses, he would have altered the entire trajectory of who you would become. Heaven knows that. So there were days when God's protection did not feel like a miracle. It felt like slowness, annoyance, a long line, a broken app, a rescheduled appointment, "we're running behind today." You rolled your eyes, checked your watch and thought, why can't things just be smooth for once? From a distance, you may start to see that if everything had been smooth, you would have intersected collisions heaven refused to allow. There are people you were never meant to meet in vulnerable seasons. There are words of rejection you were never meant to hear on already broken days. There are losses you were never meant to suffer all at once. So God stretched time. He slowed you down just enough. He tangled small details long enough to move you out of the path of what would have been. You think delay is only about what didn't start on time. Heaven knows delay is also about what never started at all because you weren't there to be hit by it. You will not see the full map of near misses this side of eternity. But you have felt the edges of it. Those strange, eerie moments when you realize, if I had been there, if I had left earlier, if today had gone how I wanted, my story could have ended very differently. Those are not coincidences. Those are fingerprints, the fingerprints of a God who does not just protect you with loud miracles but with quiet interruptions. So the next time you feel everything conspiring to slow you down and your frustration rises, you can still be human. Still be honest, still say, this is hard, but maybe, somewhere in that disappointment, you can also whisper, Lord, if this delay is one of the ways you are protecting me, then even as I feel the weight of it, I choose to trust that you see the dangers I don't. If you are holding me back, let it be because you are holding my life together in ways I will only understand when I look back and realize I was late, but I was alive. There comes a moment in your walk with God where you realize you have been measuring your life with the wrong clock. For years, you compared your timing to everyone else's. You checked where your classmates were. You scrolled through social media and counted milestones that weren't yours. You watched birthdays pass and quietly marked what you should have achieved by now. By this age, I should be married. By this age, I should have a house. By this age, I should be out of debt. By this age, I should know my purpose. Every year that didn't match your inner schedule felt like another reason to be disappointed with yourself. You didn't realize how heavy that invisible checklist had become. You woke up with it. You went to sleep with it. Even your prayers were flavored by it. God, hurry. God, I'm behind. God, I'm tired of being late. From your side, delay meant failure. From heaven's side, delay meant formation. Because God never agreed to live by the timelines you borrowed from culture, comparison, and fear. He is not in a rush to make your life look impressive. He is committed to making your life truly anchored. There were seasons where he let you fall behind by human standards so that you could finally catch up to his heart. You didn't get the relationship when everyone else was pairing off, so you learned how to enjoy your own company, how to face your loneliness honestly, how to bring your emptiness to him instead of to whoever happened to be nearby. You didn't get the job when others were advancing, so you learned how to be faithful in obscurity, how to serve in small spaces without applause, how to let your character deepen before your platform widened. You didn't arrive when others did, so you were forced to ask questions they never had to think about. Who am I if I don't have what they have yet? Who am I if my life moves slower? Is God still good if his timing doesn't match my expectations? Those questions hurt. They stripped you. They exposed how much of your identity was tied to timelines you never chose consciously. But in that stripping, something sacred happened. God was separating your sense of worth from your sense of speed, teaching you that you are not valuable because you are early or on time by anyone else's clock. You are valuable because you belong to him. There were days when you sat in the presence of God and cried, not because anything had changed, but because you were tired of hoping. You told him, I can't keep living like this, half in the future, half in regret. Teach me how to be here. Teach me how to trust you when nothing is moving. And quietly, he began to answer, not with instant acceleration, but with a different grace. The grace to breathe, the grace to stop treating every day as a race against people who don't even know what you're running toward. The grace to notice small joys in the life you actually have, instead of resenting it for not being someone else's. You started to feel it in subtle shifts. You began to say, I'm happy for them, and mean it without the same stab of envy. You began to thank God for what is, not just for what might be someday. You began to see that the goal of your life was never to keep up with a timeline that heaven didn't write. Slowly, you started living by a different rhythm, a rhythm where showing up in obedience matters more than arriving on schedule, a rhythm where listening to God's whisper matters more than impressing people with visible progress. You stopped asking only, how fast can I get there? And started asking, who am I becoming on the way? You realized there are things God can do quickly, open a door in a moment, change a situation in a day. But there are things he chooses to do slowly, because love moves slowly. Love takes its time to heal old wounds so you don't bleed all over new blessings. Love takes its time to rewire your thinking so you stop sabotaging yourself. Love takes its time to teach you that your life is not a competition, it's a conversation between your heart and his. So now when delay shows up again, when a plan stretches longer than you thought it would, when another year ends without the thing you were hoping for, you still feel it. You still have moments where you wish everything would hurry up. But underneath that impatience, there is a deeper knowing. If I am in his hands, then I am not late. I'm right where I'm meant to be for what he is doing in me right now. You begin to interpret your days differently. You stop calling every slow season wasted time. You start seeing it as root time, the time when God thickens your roots in his presence so that when fruit finally appears, it doesn't topple you. You stop despising the quiet. You stop cursing the hidden place. You stop assuming that if others arrive sooner, they are more loved than you. You remember, he is not less good to you because he is slower with you. Sometimes he is slower with you because he is being more thorough with you. Every delay is no longer a verdict. It becomes a question. Lord, what are you doing in me that is worth taking this long? And even when you don't receive a clear answer, you can rest in this. He has never once been late to his own plans for you. You may feel delayed by human standards, but heaven is not scrambling. Your story is not behind schedule. It is moving at the exact pace his love has decided will keep you close. Up to now, you've mostly thought of delay in terms of what it did to you, your frustration, your confusion, your timeline. But there is another layer you rarely consider. Sometimes God slows you down not only to protect your life, but to protect lives that will intersect yours. Because you are not walking this road alone. Your timing touches other people. Your presence in a room changes the atmosphere of that room. Your words, your decisions, your availability have real weight in the stories of others. There are people you were not ready to carry yet. If God had accelerated your life according to your plans, you would have arrived in certain roles, as a partner, a parent, a leader, a friend, before your heart was healed enough to love them well. You would have meant well. You would have tried your best. But your unhealed places would have leaked out in ways you couldn't control. Impatience turning into harshness, fear turning into control, unresolved pain turning into silence when they needed presence. Heaven saw that. So while you saw delay as punishment, God saw delay as protection for people you hadn't even met yet. He waited to bring certain souls into your orbit until your grip loosened on old patterns, until your tongue was less quick to wound, until your heart knew how to apologize and how to listen instead of just defend. You say, if I had had children earlier, if I had been a leader earlier, if I had been in that relationship years ago, I would be further by now. But what if further would have meant passing your unhealed trauma into hearts that trusted you? What if the delay in your story is the reason someone else will never have to carry what you carried growing up? You know what it is to be on the receiving end of someone else's unresolved pain. Words that marked you, absence that scarred you, explosions you never caused but had to live through. You once told God, I never want to do to others what was done to me. Break the cycle with me. Let it end here. He heard you. Breaking a cycle requires more than good intentions. It requires time to unlearn, time to be confronted, time to heal. So he did not rush you into positions where your unprocessed hurt would have had the loudest microphone. He delayed you so that by the time you stood in front of certain hearts, you would carry not perfection, but awareness. Awareness of your triggers, awareness of your limits. Awareness of when to pause, when to step back, when to say, I'm sorry, that was my wound speaking, not my love. That awareness is part of their protection. There is also this. Some people were not ready for you yet. If you had arrived earlier in their story, they would have mishandled you. They would have taken you for granted, seen you as replaceable, used your kindness as a cushion for their immaturity. You would have poured yourself out, and they would have built habits of expecting you to carry what they refused to face. So God timed your entrance. He waited until they had gone through enough of their own refining to receive you as a gift, not a convenience. You think of friendships now that feel healthier than anything you've known before. You think of conversations where both sides show up, where you are not the only one willing to work, willing to grow. If you had met those same people 10 years earlier, you may not have appreciated them, or they may not have appreciated you. The connection would have been premature, founded on who you each were before the refining fire. Instead, God delayed. He allowed you both to walk through separate valleys, to learn separate lessons, to be softened in separate ways. Then, in a timing that feels random on earth but precise in heaven, your paths crossed. And something in you knew, if we had met earlier, we would not have fit like this. There is a holy mystery in the way God orders lives to intersect. Strangers become anchors, Delayed meetings become turning points. What looked like years of nothing happening suddenly reveals itself as years of preparation for one conversation that shifts everything. You will never fully map out how your delays have been woven into the protection of others. The child who will be loved differently because you healed before they arrived. The partner who will meet you after you've learned to communicate instead of shut down. The friend who will be spared harsh words and impulsive betrayals because you stayed in the slow work of becoming trustworthy, and in the other direction, the heartbreak you never had to endure because they met you after God had dealt with their anger. The betrayal you never tasted because you entered their life after they had surrendered their pride. The manipulation you never experienced because both of you were delayed long enough to outgrow the need to control one another. Delay has been doing more than protecting you. It has been shaping you into a safer place for others. You wanted God to hurry so you could finally get to your life. He slowed you down because your life was going to carry other lives inside it. He saw children who will learn from your gentleness instead of your rage. He saw friends who will find shelter in your honesty instead of drowning in your chaos. He saw people who will meet him because of your story, a story that took longer to write, so it would not end where the enemy hoped it would. So when you feel again the ache of being behind, in relationships, in family, in calling, remember this: God is not only thinking about your timeline, He is thinking about your impact. He is timing your steps so that when you finally stand in the places you long for, your presence there will be a refuge, not another storm. And one day, someone will look at you with tears in their eyes and say, "I'm so grateful you are who you are." They will not know how many delays it took to shape that sentence, but heaven will. And in that moment, you will feel something break open inside you, a realization that all along, even in the slowest seasons, your life was being timed by a love that was always bigger than just you. There are words that have sat over your life like a shadow: too late. Too late to start over, too late to dream again, too late to change direction, too late to heal what has already been damaged. You have said them, sometimes out loud, sometimes only in the privacy of your own mind. You looked at your age, your history, your missed chances, and quietly concluded, "I already ruined the timing. Whatever God wanted to do, He would have done earlier. Now I just have to live with what's left." From your side, delay merged with finality. You didn't see it as a pause. You saw it as a verdict. But heaven has never once called you too late. Heaven sees you as right on time for what God intends to do with the days you still have. You think in terms of, "I missed my window." God thinks in terms of, "I am the one who makes windows." You look back at your past and see only chapters that feel wasted, years spent in the wrong relationship, years in a job that drained you, years numbing yourself instead of growing, years where fear kept you from taking steps you knew you should take. You feel grief over what might have been if you had moved sooner. If I had taken my healing seriously earlier, maybe I wouldn't be carrying this pain now. If I had listened to that warning, maybe I wouldn't have gone so far. If I had obeyed when God first nudged me, maybe my life would look different. Regret wraps itself around your sense of time. You don't just mourn what happened. You mourn when it happened and how long it took you to see the truth. But hear this: God is not only Lord over your future, He is Lord over your past. He does not throw away the years you mishandled. He repurposes them. He takes the delays that were caused by fear, by disobedience, by confusion, by wounds, and folds them into a story where they become context for mercy. You see a long detour. He sees a long testimony. You see a late start. He sees a heart that finally turned, and He says, "I can work with this. I can work from here." Think of all the people you admire in Scripture. Not one of them had a perfectly timed story by human standards. Some were called after years of hiding. Some were found in the middle of failure. Some met God not at the beginning of their plans, but at the end of their own attempts to run their life. He wastes nothing. not even your delays. The seasons where you wandered, where you seemed stuck, where you circled the same mountain. He's not proud of your pain, but he's ready to recycle it into wisdom. The empathy you feel now for those who are behind, afraid, ashamed, that came from your delays. The compassion you have for people who took the long way, that came from your own long way. The ability to recognize when someone is drowning in too late thinking and speak life into them. That came from the days you believed the same lie and God refused to abandon you there. Your delays have given you a language for other people's despair. That is not wasted, but for you to walk fully into what God still wants to write, He has to heal your relationship with time. Because as long as you see yourself as permanently behind, you will sabotage the very doors He opens now. You will say, it's too late to go back to school. It's too late to change careers. It's too late to trust again. It's too late to start ministry. It's too late to learn how to be healthy, how to forgive, how to show up differently. And heaven will keep whispering, it is not too late to obey me now. You don't need a time machine to redeem your story. You need willingness in this moment. Willingness to say, Lord, I can't change how long I wandered. I can't change how slow I was to listen. But I offer you today. I offer you my next step. I offer you what is left. And I believe you are still able to do something beautiful with it. He is not intimidated by the years you think you lost. He is the same God who restores what was eaten, the same God who multiplies loaves and fish, the same God who takes a lifetime of brokenness and writes redemption in the final chapters. The enemy wants your delays to become your prison. God wants your delays to become your altar, a place where you lay down all your too late sentences and let Him speak something new. He does not say, you're right, you missed it. He says, look at me. As long as you can still hear my voice, you are not beyond my timing. There will still be consequences for certain choices. There will still be realities you can't rewrite, but even those are not the end of your usefulness, your purpose, or your intimacy with Him. Your story does not expire because you did not live it perfectly. It deepens. So when you feel the familiar weight of too late pressing on your chest, when you start counting years like reasons to give up, take a breath and remember, the same God who protected you through delays you didn't choose is able to redeem the delays you did choose. He is not standing over you with a stopwatch, shaking His head. He is standing beside you in this exact moment, saying, if you will walk with me now, if you will give me your late, I will show you that I am still able to build something beautiful and eternal from the time you have left. In my hands, it is not too late. One day you will look back at this season from farther down the road and see it differently than you do now. You will remember the years you called wasted. You will remember the plans that moved slower than you hoped. You will remember the doors that refused to open no matter how hard you knocked. You will remember the nights you stared at the ceiling and asked, God, where are you in this delay? Why won't anything move? Why does everyone else seem to arrive while I'm still stuck here waiting? Right now, the waiting room feels crowded with questions and empty of answers. But from heaven's side, there has never been a single day where your life drifted off God's radar. You have not been circling some meaningless roundabout. You have been tracing a carefully timed path through moments He selected with more precision than you select your words. There are appointments you were not allowed to keep, collisions you were not permitted to meet, people you were not ready to carry, platforms you were not built to hold. Not yet. Delay has been the hand that held you back from walking into places that would have rewired your story in ways you would now mourn. Delay has been the wall between you and accidents you never saw coming. Delay has been the slow classroom where you learned how to stay standing even when nothing changes overnight. Delay has been the furnace where your faith stopped being a theory you repeated and became a person you leaned on. You thought you were just late. Heaven knew you were being preserved. You thought you were stuck. Heaven knew you were being rooted. You thought the clock had turned against you. Heaven knew time was being used in your favor, not to humiliate you, but to heal you. There will come a moment, maybe not dramatic, maybe not emotional, when you will look at something in your life and quietly realize, if that door had opened earlier, I would not have been ready for this. If I had arrived then, I would not be the person who can hold this now. You will see it in the way you respond to pressure that once would have broken you. You will see it in the way you love people without losing yourself. You will see it in the way you can hear "not yet" without immediately translating it as "never" or "you are nothing." And in that moment, it will dawn on you. The delay did not destroy you. It saved you. It saved you from a life built entirely on adrenaline and performance. It saved you from relationships that would have devoured your identity. It saved you from success that would have quietly strangled your soul. Most of all, it saved you from a version of faith that only trusts God when He is fast. Because now you are learning how to trust Him when He is slow. Slow to rush you. Slow to push you into rooms that would swallow you whole. Slow to agree with timelines that do not fit the depth of what He is building in you. You don't have all the explanations. You still feel the ache of birthdays, milestones, and anniversaries that remind you of what hasn't happened yet. And God does not minimize that ache. He hears the sighs too deep for words. He counts the tears that fall in the middle of these still not yet years. But over your life, He is speaking something truer than too late and deeper than not yet. He is speaking, I am here in the hallway, here in the long mornings that look like nothing is changing, here in the small, faithful choices that nobody sees, here when you arrive too late and only later discover you were right on time for the life He was protecting. You have not missed the only train to your destiny. You have not fallen out of His story. You are still in the hands of the God who knows how to redeem detours, repurpose delays, and weave even your slowest seasons into a testimony of His protection. So as you stand in front of the days ahead, still waiting, still walking, still wondering when certain things will finally move, let this become your quiet confession. Lord, I don't understand your timing. I don't always like it. But I choose to believe that every step you slow, every door you hold shut, every route you reroute is part of a mercy I will one day thank you for. If you have delayed me, then somewhere in this delay, my life is being saved. Hurry! And if your heart needs to stay in this kind of atmosphere, where your delays are not mocked, where your slow seasons are seen, where your timeline is held up to heaven's light instead of comparison's glare, you are welcome to stay close. Stay close to this voice. Stay close to reminders that interpret your story from God's side, not just from the clock's side. Stay close to divine frequency. Because there will be more days when you feel behind, more moments when the world tells you you are too late. But here, you will be reminded again and again that in the hands of the one who loves you, the delay you resent today may be the very reason you are still here tomorrow. Alive, protected, and right on time for the story He is still writing with you.